fun. Just had another video here we wanted to share with you. We've been asking some of our customers what would be something they'd like to see. And Lisa Maynard here from the OSF Healthcare is one of our customers and thought it would be a great idea to have a video about child safety seats. So Lisa's here, like I said, from OSF Healthcare. She's from the Illinois Neurological Institute's Think First program. And along with her is her colleague Erin Lucky from the Woodford County Health Department, who is actually a nationally certified child passenger safety technician. So we thought we'd do a video for you guys, give you some information from them on how to install them properly and just other information that may be helpful. We'll also put at the end of the video the hotline to get a hold of the hospital and that for more information, or the Woodford County Health Department. So hope you guys find this interesting, and hopefully you find the information definitely worthwhile for you guys.
Well, as nationally certified child passenger safety technicians, although we are, every single vehicle is different, every single car seat is different, and so it's very, very important, first and foremost, that you always read your vehicle manual in the child passenger safety restraint area, and that you always read
the brochure or the instructions that come with your car seat to make sure that they are compatible with the vehicle that you would like to install them in. And another reminder to always fill out the warranty card that comes with your car seat manual to make sure if there's ever a recall on the car seat that you're notified of that in a prompt manner so that you can get replacement parts or replace the seat if needed.
First thing to consider whenever you are starting to install a seat in a vehicle is finding out where the lower anchors are and where the tether straps are. The book is usually great. A vehicle manual is great for this in the child passenger safety restraint area. Something specific you are looking for is lower anchors and tethers for children, latch. And they show pictures sometimes. You just will sometimes have to read through it. You can always use a seatbelt as well to install a car seat. But some of the things that you will look for is how your tether might be routed, what positions might have a lower anchor or tether that you might utilize, whether or not your tether is going over the headrest or under the headrest. And another super important thing to check out in both your child passenger safety manual and in your vehicle manual is also checking to make sure that you do not exceed weight limits for the lower anchors and the tethers. You have to check that out to make sure you have your weight requirements known, both applicable for vehicle weights and car seat weights. Whatever is the lowest weight is what you will have to go by.
Okay, when getting ready to put your vehicle, your car seat into your vehicle, there's a couple things you can look for. As Lisa said, make sure you check your user manual, owner manual of your vehicle to see where those latch and tether anchors are located. In this particular vehicle, you can see the symbol of the anchor tether right here on the back, and then the device is right here to hook your seat to. So to move the seat forward, and then you'll need to route the tether cable through the headrest and latch it onto there like so. And then go ahead and push your seat forward. We'll come back later and tighten that up to get a good tight fit. Generally, you would install the car seat first using the seat belt or the lower anchors, whatever you decide to do. In this case, with the way the seat is, we're going to install the tether first and then come in and hook the seat belt in, the car seat in rather, using the lower anchors. So the lower anchors are going to clip in here. There's a little tab right here showing me where those are located. And again, always refer to your manual to make sure which ones for which position they want you to use. And then I'm going to snap in the lower tether, or lower anchor rather, like that, and then come around and get this side here. Once those are in, then we'll start installing the seat, getting it nice and tight here, pushing in and pulling up, pushing down on the seat and pulling up on the strap. You want it to move less than an inch from side to side. So as you can see, we've got a little ways to go on that. Once we get that tightened though, then we would come back and tighten the tether strap on the back until it no longer moves in a forward position.
Okay. Another trick to the trade is sometimes when you're tightening, you don't want to tighten this way because that actually is not really going to do anything. Sometimes you have to re-angle your strap so that you are pulling and tightening in a way that will actually work with your seat and a way that will actually work with the strap to make it snug. So you might just have to reroute it. And as you can see, that snugged it up just enough. After we have it snug on the latch or by the seat belt, then we will work on snugging up the tether. And it's the same thing with the tether. We want to make sure that we're pulling our strap in the direction that will tighten it up. And we tighten it up as much as we can for the tether. The tether strap is great, and if you are using the lower anchors, you always have to have the tether strap because that helps prevent head excursion, which is basically your child's head from moving forward and hitting other things. So that helps prevent from a lot of brain and spinal cord injuries that might happen if they don't have that tether strapped in.
This particular seat can be used as a booster with the seat belt or with the child in the 5-point harness. The straps on a forward-facing child should be at or slightly above the shoulders. This buckle should be right at armpit level. The straps here should come right across the child's legs and snap in like so.
One thing to note about anytime you have someone riding in a 5-point harness, especially during winter time, is we do not want big, thick, bulky coats while they are sitting in a snugged up seat. Those bulky, thick coats give you a false sense of snugness. They think that they're a lot more snug than they are on the child, but if there's a crash, that pressure from the crash, that force from the crash actually pushes that cushion out of those big bulky coats, and it ends up having your child move way more in a crash than you would ever want them to. So it's super important to put your child in the seat and to snug them up appropriately according to the seat. You can add their coat right on top of them or their blankets right on top of them. I know as a mom, when I first heard that, I started to worry because I thought, oh my goodness, like my kid is he's gonna freeze to death. But what I also had to be reminded of is first, they have to survive the crash. If they don't survive the crash first, then they aren't going to survive the cold anyway. So they have to survive the crash first. So make sure you keep your kids nice and snug. Only one finger right at the shoulder or the other test, because everybody's fingers are different sizes. The better test is to see if you can pinch the fabric at their shoulder, it is too loose. If you can't pinch that fabric, then it's nice and snug, and that is a good amount of tightness on your child. Obviously, you don't want it gashing red marks into their skin, like hard red marks, but you don't want it so loose where they're going to end up moving more in a crash than you would want them to. We're going to give you a few quick tips for if you need to install a forward-facing seat with a seat belt instead of the lower anchors. If you'll notice, there is the belt path here for forward facing. We are going to put the seat belt through that. To lock it into place, we're going to have to pull it all the way out, hear that click, and then you hear it lock into place. And then you cannot pull it back out. If you'll notice, sometimes seat belts are different than that. Sometimes they lock at a locking plate here, and so that's where they lock, but a lot of times you want to make sure that if you are locking a seatbelt into place, if it locks by this, you pull it all the way out, hear a click, and then you can't pull it back out again. In order to reset this before you panic that you've ruined your new car, you let that go all the way back in, and then you've reset it. So if you need to start over, that's what you do. Just let it go all the way back in, and then you reset the locking mechanism. Again, some seats do not lock in that manner, and they lock at the locking plate. So you just have to check and see what kind of locking mechanism you have before you install your car seat. So when we put the belt path through, we want to make sure our belt is nice and straight with no twists or turns in it through the belt path. You want to make sure there aren't any twists behind that seat. You're going to buckle it in, and after you get it buckled, then again you are going to add some pressure to that. Obviously don't push right down on that seatbelt path, or else you're not going to be able to get it tightened, but you're going to add some pressure. And typically when people are pulling that seatbelt, it helps to pull it straight out toward the person instead of up, because if you do it up, sometimes it makes the car seat cockeyed and you don't want that to happen. After you have tightened it as much as you can, you're going to double check, and this is not moving from an inch from side to side or front to back, so we are good to go. The next thing is with the seat belt, you can use that tether. However, you cannot use lower anchors and seat belts together. Again, some seats might be a little bit different, so always, always, always refer to the Child Passenger Safety Seat Manual. That is very important, to always refer to the manual to double check everything. Can you use a seat belt with a tether? Can you use the tether and the anchors? Just double check every single thing. What are the weight limits? Always refer to the manuals. Stickers on car seats are very important because they list the expiration of the car seat, and you make sure you adhere to that expiration date. Car seats are made in plastic, and especially in our Illinois weather with the extreme heat and the extreme cold, this plastic has a tendency to break down, and so that's part of the reason that we do have expirations for car seats. We want to make sure our children are riding in the safest way possible, so we want to make sure that our car seats are holding up like they should be, which is why they have expirations again. But the stickers are also important to refer to quick references on how tall should a child be before he or she can switch into the next level of harness, or how much can they weigh before they have to be out of the seat. You can refer to the general guidelines on the stickers before switching them into a new seat or in a new position on the harness. You can check on those different weights and heights and when they need to progress to the next step.
When your child is sized out of the harness portion of the seat, you will want to remove this from this particular seat, take it out and just store it somewhere safe so that you can use it again another time perhaps, and then move to the seat belt. The child should be able to sit in the car seat in their seat belt and not put the seat belt behind their back or slip out of it in any way. They need to be mature enough to make sure they're going to stay safely in the seat. So you will run your seat belt through this here, and this will keep the seat belt at the level that it needs to be to fit the child properly. Just keep it in a proper position, and then you'll go across their lap with the belt and buckle that in. And cinch it up just a bit. This should be coming right across the child's shoulder and not be cutting into the child's neck, to make sure that it fits properly. And then the lap belt portion should be fitting nicely across their hips, not their bellies.
In a seat like this, there's just a couple options for the booster seat levels. They also offer high back boosters that adjust up and down, and they also offer low back boosters or no back boosters, where a child has a special clip that holds the seatbelt in the proper position on their shoulder. If you start to notice in a seat similar to this that it starts to work so that it fits down on the child's arm and they're getting too tall for the levels, you might want to consider switching into the high back or into the no back booster so that it properly goes across their shoulders and across their hips. One reason it is super important for a child to always have that seatbelt going across their body, across the shoulders and hips, that strong bone on their shoulders and across their hip bones, is because if they are to put the seatbelt behind their back, that means that they only have the lap belt going across their lower body. If the lap belt is going across their lower body and they have nothing to hold them up in a crash, that means their body flies forward or snaps forward, and that can actually lead to lower spinal cord injuries and lots of internal organ problems. So it's super important, not to mention that their heads might hit some other objects in the car that you don't want your child's head hitting. So it's super important that children always wear that strap going across their shoulders and across their hips. Sometimes you might notice that a certain child might need to stay in a booster seat longer than the 8 years old. By law, they have to be in a seat according to their weight and height requirements and age requirements until at least 8 years old. Some children, they grow a little bit slower, and so sometimes they need to be in a booster until they're a little bit older, as long as they don't exceed the weight and height requirements of that booster. it's important to always make sure children are boosted up so the seatbelts fit them properly. If you switch them into a regular seat too soon and don't leave them in the booster seat long enough, that means that seatbelt might end up hitting on their neck or on their face, and in a crash, that is where that pressure goes. And you don't want that pressure going on crucial areas of your child. So it is super important to make sure you always properly fit your children with that lap and shoulder belt going across their shoulders and across their hips.
This particular seat is rear facing only, used commonly for infants. Several things to remember on an infant seat when you're rear facing, that the shoulder straps here should be at or slightly below the child's shoulders, and then the buckle should go right across the armpit level and be snapped into the crotch buckle here. On infant seats, they do have this, the carry handle. Check your user's manual on the carry handle. Some car seat manufacturers want it in certain positions while the vehicle is in motion. So again, just refer back to that very handy manual on where the handle position should be when traveling. Another thing to consider, a very important part of rear facing, is the angle level of the car seat, and check that when you do your install, either using the lower anchors or the seat belt, to make sure that that line is level with the ground. Another thing to consider when purchasing your seats or a new vehicle is to make sure when the seat is installed rear facing that there is enough clearance between the top or back of the rear facing seat and the back of the seat, the front seat. There should always be a gap in between those two, so just make sure that your seat is compatible with your vehicle.
So, airbags. Super great invention. I know sometimes people worry about getting bruises or scrapes because airbags, they do come out super hard and super powerful, but airbags were designed to be used with the seatbelts. So if you have a seatbelt on as an adult and you're sitting in the front seat, if there is a crash, that seatbelt, you're going to have some movement from the crash forces, but it's preventing a lot of horrible injuries for you or even death from a car crash. That airbag comes out so that your head is not hitting the dashboard and things like that. When it comes to child passenger safety though, because airbags are powerful, we don't want our child to have that in their face or upper body. Their bodies are not as sturdy as we are. They're still developing, so it's super important not to have that powerful airbag. If you have a situation where you only have one row of seats and the airbag is in front, see if you can ask your manufacturer about disabling the airbag, if that's possible, if it has a weight thing where it triggers it or not, or if there's a way to put your child in the middle seat, if there's not an airbag in the middle part. Figure out a way to keep your child's face and upper body away from that airbag as much as possible. If there is no possible solution for that, slide that seat back as far as you possibly can away from the airbag to make sure that your child is the farthest from that power. Again, it's great for us as adults to have those airbags in the front seat because it's preventing us from so much for injuries, but for children, we also don't want them to get hurt. And it's also never ever should we have a rear-facing child passenger safety seat in the front seat with an airbag. If we have that rear-facing child passenger safety seat in the front with an airbag, that airbag comes out, it can blast that seat and cause a lot more damage to your child. It could split the seat. A lot of different things can happen, and the force is not going where you want it to go. So always make sure you keep rear-facing seats in the back, away from airbags. Check to make sure. Some car seats, infant seats, allow the carrier to be used alone without the base as a car seat. Sometimes they do not, so always, again, check that handy dandy manual because you always need those manuals. But if your seat allows, you can remove it from the base, or let's say grandma or grandpa, or they have the kids, but they don't have this base with them, and suddenly there's an emergency. And so, in this case, we're allowed to install this car seat without the base. Again, check your manuals. Always check those manuals. If you are in a situation like that, you want to make sure your seatbelt gets routed through the belt path, that it goes straight over following the belt path, and again, refer to your owner's manual of the car seat to make sure that you are following the correct path that they would like you to. You buckle it in, And again, you tighten it up. Push down and install it. And then you check to see, is it moving more than an inch from side to side or front to back? If it is not, you are good to go. And again, double check that manual for the handle carrying position or how it can travel in a vehicle, and also make sure that it is not wedged between the front seat and the back seat.
So the question is, when is my child ready to move out of their booster seat into just the regular seat and a seat belt? Of course, the law is age 8. They must be in a booster seat up until that age limit. CPS technicians have a little trick we call the crack test to see if your child is ready to be out of their booster seat. The bite of the seat or the crack of the seat, the child's rear end should be able to sit against the back of the seat. Their legs should be able to come over and their knees should bend. They should be able to touch the floor. And then the seat belt, once it's on, again, should come across and be resting on their shoulder, not up by their ears, and then be able to buckle that. The lap belt should come nicely across their hips, not their belly. And then, again, maturity level, they need to make sure that they can stay in the seat with the seat belt in the proper position during the length of the trip.
So Erin and I can totally talk about safety all day. We absolutely love safety. But in case you're, going through things and you still have a lot of questions and they were not answered on any of these video clips, please feel free to call the OSF Healthcare Children's Hospital of Illinois Child Passenger Safety Hotline. The number is 877-277-6543. Again, 877-277-6543. Or
you can contact me at the Woodford County Health Department, set up an appointment to come out. I would love to look at your seat and answer any questions that you might have. You can reach me during the week, 309-467-3064. Again, 309-467-3064.
thanks!